And most managers actually just kind of make decisions, little decisions throughout the day, their day to day, and they're just kind of communicating and talking with people, going in a lot of meetings. So this idea that, that there's a strategic formalization and implementation and in sort of executing on all of that kind of stuff. It is true in a macro sense, right? That the managers do that kind of stuff. But on a day-to-day sense, this is not really how they make their decisions. This is not what goes on within an organization. A lot of the stuff that they're dealing with has to do with communication and just simply problem solving is a big thing. Whenever somebody comes up with a particular problem, they're sitting down or they're creating a team to sit down and sort of resolve these problems going forward and coming up with solutions to these particular problems, whether it's a problem that their customers are dealing with, which is more of the front end stuff, or dealing with problems that they themselves are dealing with in the organization. Maybe the organization is not growing enough. Maybe it is, maybe they're growing too fast and they have to deal with these particular problems. The other thing that ends up happening when they're dealing with these particular problems and figuring out a way to actually deal with these problems and coming up with solutions, they often have a lot of competing goals along the way. So these competing goals, they could be within the organization. So for example, in an operational sense, that they're dealing with these particular, maybe they have to do something operationally, but then they also have to deal with something on the financial side, for example. They can't spend a lot on this particular thing. But then there's also all these personal goals that people have, that managers actually have, right? So on an individual level, we have all of these little tiny goals, right? We want to provide for our family. We want to make sure that our sort of the immediate surrounding that we have are taken care of. Maybe it is your direct subordinates, that they are not going to lose their jobs. There's all these kind of competing goals that you deal with along the way, or maybe just wanting to be liked. For example, as a manager, that's a really big goal that you deal with, and it's not related to the organization at all. It's related to sort of the politics or your individual self going forward. And that's really what happens within the management world, or what strategic managers deal with on a constant basis. They're always thinking about making these decisions. The other thing that they often have to deal with is that they're always trying to resolve sort of environmental uncertainties as much as they possibly can. So they're trying to make things as predictable and make their life as predictable as much as possible, because anytime that there's these exceptions and dealing with all these sort of troubles along the way, right? And that's what an exception will end up resulting in, is a problem. And whenever they have those things, they're trying to smooth those out as much as they possibly can and make a generic solution as much as they possibly can to deal with those particular issues. The other thing and the final thing that managers often deal with, and is related to this problem solving, is that they're much more concerned with dealing with the immediate goals than thinking about the long-term goals. And what managers might do is they use their sort of mental maps, and they use their way. So maybe they have this sort of overall goal that they want to deal with, or this overall strategic formulation, this Uber strategy, but then they have to sort of place what they're doing, their immediate goals, within this framework. And that sort of mental map of where they want to go, and these decisions along the way sort of they help out. So when you have this sort of view of like where you want to go, it sort of helps you out with making decisions on the little kind of things. But most of the time you're dealing with these little things, you start thinking, well, is this related to the goal that I want to pursue? And it's kind of more in the back of your head, or maybe it's within the group, and that's doing the management's in the back of their head, and they're thinking that maybe that there's these little things that we should be doing. Or maybe there's this macro strategy that we should be doing and addressing. And every once in a while, it's going to come up that they're dealing with this macro strategy. But most of the time, the day-to-day, they're dealing with how to actually get this stuff done and dealing with these small decisions.